so far. A little devastated, but I'll get over it.
Hope everything is good. Okay. I have a couple of issues in general. Is somehow when I see Christian and Muslim debate, it's just to prove a point, but to not resolve the issue itself. So in Islam, I believe that the main thing to do is when you're adult to try to check what is the correct religion, and that's what I did when I started to go around. I live now in Canada. I'm Egyptian. I went to different countries. I understand the difference between culture and the issue of the bias. And this is what I hate about, I guess, biased discussion. So I'm gonna come here from perspective of looking for truth, basically. So
Okay.
I looked on Islam, Christianity, especially because in Egypt we see that Christian are our brothers. We have 15% of population are Christian, so we have a good relations with Christians. So I started to understand more about Christianity and Islam. So when you're coming to the question of Jesus as Muslim, again you're coming to the, I guess, the phrase itself. A Muslim understand this phrase from the perspective of Islam mean to be submitting to God. This is our understanding. So we understand that Islam didn't came when Jesus was 600 years before Islam, but the concept itself is coming from that Jesus himself submitted to God, and this is our understanding of the meaning of Jesus was Muslim, not
Yes,
because
I'm
Islam
aware.
came to this kind of era 600 years before
I understand.
Christ.
I understand. So
So this is,
let's break this down
yeah,
a little bit.
yeah, go ahead.
So you're saying that the meaning of Muslim is simply one who submits their will to God, and so
Correct.
Jesus being a submitter of God would put him under the category of being a Muslim. And so when I tackle this issue, I like to highlight how when we take a closer look at what Muslims mean when they say submit their will to God, that it's not as simple as you guys make it seem. So, like, for example, if I said that I submit my will to God, but I believe that God is a statue, would you say that I'm a Muslim?
100% no.
Right. And that's because I have an incorrect concept of God, right? If I'm saying that God is a statue, that's not the God that Islam is talking about. That's not the correct concept of God in Islam. So when you say submit your will to God, what you really mean is you're submitting yourself to Allah of Islam specifically, the one that's described in the Quran and the Hadith.
Correct.
Okay. And so now, with that foundation, now we need to see, did Jesus submit himself to the concept of God that we find within Islam? You know, and that's how, if he did, then yes, he was a Muslim. If he didn't have the same concept of God that's in Islam, then he's not a Muslim.
Okay. To this point, I guess as the common question is going to come, unfortunately, to a different point. That when you're coming to navigate, before coming to the conclusion of which religion I would be, you're going to come to the conclusion first that you want to verify the text itself, correct? Because once you're going to start to say that Jesus did that, what you're going to say is Jesus says that on Bible, Jesus says that on Quran, or maybe on a different text. Then you have to come to the main question is, do we have more trust on the text of Muslims, Quran, or the Bible, which is broad range? When you're talking about Bibles, then you're talking about New Testament and Old Testament. So, because now I guess your direction is going to be, Jesus said that on the Bible. But the question is, do we have a verified version of the Bible or verified version of the Quran?
That's not my thing. Because when you say that Jesus is a Muslim, this is a historical claim. You're making a historical claim on the person of Jesus, who lived in the first century. So, because you're making a historical claim, you need historical evidence, primary sources on the life of Jesus about his religion, how he practiced his religion, what he believed, what he taught. You need these sources in order to make a claim objectively on whether Jesus followed Islam or not. And so I believe that through this conversation, we can see what the primary sources on the life of Jesus is, whether you already recognize it or not. Like if we were to ask, like, for example, if I want to know about Jesus, just basic historical information about him, like what language he spoke, what would you say is the language that Jesus spoke?
I'm not good on, I didn't research it, but I know that he was living on Palestine or on this area of Middle East. I'm not sure if it's Aramaic or not. I'm not gonna say you're the expert on this. I'm gonna leave it to you.
Fair enough. Well, so his main tongue, his mother tongue was Aramaic. It was Aramaic, and this is it's a consensus on this. And the reason why there's a consensus on this language of Jesus is because we have the primary sources on the life of Jesus, which are the New Testament documents. Even atheistic scholars, they'll affirm that Jesus spoke Aramaic, and it's based on the primary sources, which are the New Testament documents. Or even you saying that you think that Jesus lived in Palestine, or what is now called Palestine today, right? You get from the New Testament documents, because the Quran doesn't tell you this stuff.
I guess, okay.
The
Quran didn't say, but you're talking about perspective of Muslims or Christians?
I'm talking about the perspective of history. So regardless of if I'm a Muslim or a Christian, if I want to get the historical accurate Jesus, I'm going to go to the primary sources on the life of Jesus. Just like if I wanted to get historically accurate information on Muhammad, I would go to the primary sources on Muhammad's life and what he said, what he did, what he taught, which would be the Sunnah, right? Which would
Can I disagree with you on that?
Oh, you disagree with the Sunnah?
No, I disagree with the concept because both of the religion or three religion, Jews, Christian, Muslim, believing on revelations, correct?
Yeah, we believe in revelation, but we don't believe in revelation opposing history. Like we believe in revelation within history. God reveals things within human history, right?
Then you're gonna come back to the point of the verification of the Bible.
No, it's not it's not simply just a verification of the Bible. Like this is the primary source on the life of Jesus. It's not just because it's the Bible. It's eyewitness testimony on the life of Jesus. It's how we know anything about him.
But we don't have eyewitnesses on. Okay, how then you're confirming that the Bible is a reliable source of historical information, correct?
Well, you are at the same time. Remember, you said that you believe that Jesus lived in the Middle East in first century Palestine. How do you know that? Where do you get that from?
Let me tell you a little bit about this. Can I speak for 20 seconds?
About what?
About that. We believe that you know the Injil, which is you're gonna say Bible. We don't. When we say that we believe on Bible, we don't believe on this Bible. We believe that this Bible came to Jesus and the disciple has basically spreaded this message. But we don't have this message now.
Mom, I know. I know what you believe as a Muslim. Trust me. I know.
Okay.
This is why I'm asking these questions, because based on what you believe, it doesn't match how you live or how you carry out even your walk as a Muslim or how you argue or reason as a human. When you say you reject the Bible that we have today, you don't believe the Bible is the Injil that Jesus was preaching and stuff like that. That's fine. This is why the question still stands. Where do you get it from that Jesus lived in first century Palestine?
I guess I have to search it. I can verify what you're saying later. Because basically you're saying I'm relying on the Bible. On the same time, I'm contradicting myself to say that I'm not believing on Bible. Yes. I understand what you're saying, but I can look on this and have it to myself later to
Okay.
understand if this is coming from Islam or history or from Bible.
Well, it's for sure not Islam. Islam doesn't give you this information on Jesus at all. All right.
I will
But
look at.
yeah. What about, like, for example, how did Jesus pray? Now we're talking about how Jesus practiced his religion. So how would you say that he prayed, if you're aware of that?
I'm aware that this is a common, I guess, point between Christian and Muslim, that why Christian is not following Jesus when he was like actually prostrating and doing similar. So I guess this is coming from the Bible.
All right. So it's from the Bible that we see how Jesus practiced his religion.
Correct.
So even then, we're relying on the Bible. Both you and I are relying on the Bible for certain facts about Jesus, where he was from, the language he spoke, and even how he practiced his religion, what he believed. So,
But do you agree that both Christian and Muslim, Christian understand that this is not a whole, it's not, you're taking the Bible as a whole package, when Muslim are doing this critical issue of that we cannot believe that maybe 95% and 5 or 10% is not correct.
Well,
So yes, we know that we have 90% correct information in the Bible, but as a Christian, my understanding that you guys doesn't care even if this 5 or 10% is not correct, because the whole message is correct.
okay.
Is correct?
So I mean, I obviously disagree. I know that's probably your method, right? You take some of it, you disregard other parts.
Correct.
My point is the parts that you are affirming. You affirmed, for example, in the Bible where Jesus prostrates and prays. So you're saying that is true, right? And so the point is that according to the verse when he prostrates and prays, he prostrates and prays to his Father. He says, Father, if it be possible, let this cup pass from me, but not my will, let your will be done. So we see Jesus's theology within the verse that tells us how he prayed. And he believed that God was his Father and he his Son. Now, would this line up with Islam? Could you be a Muslim and affirm that God is your Father and you're his Son?
Yeah.
So Allah is the Father of Jesus?
Yes. Allah is the Father of all of us.
And what Quran verse do you have to demonstrate that?
I guess it's common sense. We, as a way of endorsement, we feel that God is the biggest thing for everyone. Because when you're referring to Allah, it's like you're differentiating between God and Allah. It's the same. It's just a name. The name of the God is Allah. But yeah, we believe that our God is our Father, and all of us is our sons. So again, what is the wrong of this? I guess description, or
I'll show you, because the Quran denies this. The Quran denies that Allah is a father to any of you. He says that he is only your master, not your father.
I guess it's the same. It's the same thing.
No, there's a difference between a servant and a son. Would you agree?
Not from my perspective. I guess this is again playing on word. I guess it's the same meaning. All of us are servant to God, yes, and all of us are sons of God.
Is every son a servant of their parent?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would, and I agree. Sons are servants of their parents.
Yeah.
Is every servant a son of their master?
No.
Exactly. So this shows you a distinction between servants and children or sons. And so Allah makes that distinction. He says, I don't have any sons. I have no children. Don't even utter such a thing. However, you guys are my servants, my slaves. So he makes the distinction between sons and
slaves. From your perspective, like I know the Arabic, it's abd. Abd mean not abd here is basically somebody is praying. It's not from the perspective of being slavery, and
it means
not that.
slave. It means slave. Or, I mean, it's
I
not, it's not
understand that abd is equal servant. I'm an Arabic speaker, so I understand both of
good.
the phrases. But I'm just
Yeah.
trying to tell you, we don't take it as you when you say it. We're not saying
No,
that
no,
we're servant means that we're in slavery.
no, Muhammad. I'm not using it in a bad connotation. I don't think it's bad to be a slave of God. It's not a
Yeah.
bad thing. Okay.
Okay.
If servant is better, then I'll say servants, because slave, servant, same thing. But being a
Okay.
servant of God, slave of God that's
Fair
actually a
enough.
good thing. Okay.
Fair
My
enough.
only
Fair enough.
point is that that's the only relationship. That's how high your relationship can go with Allah. You can't go beyond servant and master to father and son, or daughter and father. You can't have that
Okay,
relationship.
I got what you're trying to say. So you're trying to say that
Mhm.
Jesus said, "I'm the Son of God." Then this is a
Yes,
different or this thing. Okay.
correct. He called God his father, which is what Allah denies. Allah denies that he has any children in any sense.
Again, when we're saying son here, it's endorsement that we are like again. This is our understanding. I don't see an actual conflict. What you're trying to
So
say is this is a conflict.
yeah,
This is my understanding.
if Allah says, well, I'll just read it. I'll read it and then I'll get your thoughts. Okay. So this is Surah Maryam, it's chapter 19, and we're gonna
Can we
do
keep because you keep saying Allah?
yeah.
I mean, you say mean God, but when you saying Allah, you mean God and Islam. That's what you're trying to say?
Yeah, when I say Allah, I'm talking about the God of Islam. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So this is Surah 19. I'll put it on the screen so we can all see it
Sure.
together too. All right. Can you see that? Is it clear? Is it big enough?
Yeah, I can read Arabic too.
Oh, awesome. All right. So it says, and they say the most merciful has taken a son. You have done an atrocious thing. The heavens almost rupture therefrom, and the earth splits open, and the mountains collapse in devastation, that they attribute to the most merciful a son. And it is not appropriate for the most merciful that he should take a son. There is no one in the heavens and the earth, but that comes to the most merciful as a servant.
I agree on that.
Good. So this means that you can't
Do you see
come
any conflict of that to human being in any religion?
Well, the conflict is that you're saying that you can come to Allah as a son when you're talking about in terms of endearment, that you feel that close relationship with Allah. You're his son and he's your father, metaphorically like that. Allah says, no, you can only come to him as a servant. You cannot come to him as a son.
But you don't see the issue why this has been revealed on Quran, for example, because we believe that people has misinterpreted the message of Jesus, and somehow, in our point of view, that they have somebody equal to God to make Jesus as on the Trinity is equal to God or part of. So I guess this is the message that God's trying to say to humanity. You get confused when I send the message to Jesus that you think that he's my son, but he's not my son. And I guess this is there's no contradiction on that.
Yeah, but notice how he doesn't just deny that Jesus is his son. He denies having a son, period, in any way. And that the only relationship that he has with his creation is a master and servant relationship.
Because the Christianity spread it. Because as
No,
you
it has
see,
nothing to do with Christianity. This has to do with Allah establishing who he is and his relationship with his creation. So he's making it clear.
do you disagree on that? If something happened 600 years before Islam and people get confused, and our claim is that people get confused and bring Jesus as a son, and now God trying to spread the correct message and say do not follow the wrong message. He was never my son. I cannot have son. Maybe you guys understood that son is my
No,
son,
no,
but he was never my son.
no. See right there, when you say you guys may be understood, no, he doesn't give any leeway where there's a correct understanding of being a son of Allah. He knocks it all out. He says you
Because he
can
said
only.
because he said that the people think he's my son, and I'm saying he's
Well,
not
he
my
doesn't
son.
mention he doesn't mention Jesus, but he's just talking about having a son. Period.
No, he's talking about Jesus' force.
Okay. So
What is the surah? What is the surah
there's
number,
it's,
please,
it's
if you don't
Surah
mind?
19. It's Surah 19. I don't want to get caught up on, because that's not even the main point. The point
Sure, no worries. No worries.
is that he denies having a son in any way, and that you can only come to him as his servant. We agree so far?
And I guess you agree too.
That's what I agree that that's what it says.
And you
So-
agree that every person is like this or not?
Oh no, I do not. This is my point. Because when we talked about Jesus, remember, we talked about Jesus and how he prayed. When he prostrated and prayed, he prayed to his father. He called God his father. So when Islam says, when Allah in the Quran says that is absolutely wrong, to do such a thing is causes the earth to shake and the universe to rupture and stuff. Jesus is doing something that puts him outside of Islam when he calls God his father.
Okay.
So therefore, since he's doing something, since his concept of God, therefore he's not a Muslim. Jesus would be a mushrik according to the Quran standards.
So you think that? No, I don't see it like that way. I see Jesus in the Bible saying that I'm praying to my Father, and later on the Quran corrects this concept to tell the humanity that there is no son. It was only a servant.
So Jesus was wrong when he called God his father, right?
No, Jesus was say something is misinterpreted by the whole humanity. That's why the Islam came. Like, can you come to the point
Right.
why the Islam came?
So what you're saying is,
if there's no meaning of Islam,
what you're saying is that when Jesus called God his father, he was correct in doing so.
It will be too hard for Muslims to defend the authenticity and originality of the Quran. And at the same time, they're trying to do away and say that the scriptures or the Bible is not true, it has been changed. When the very, very Quran demands them to go back to the scriptures and seek understanding from there. It will be very hard for them to say that Jesus is not the Son of God using the scriptures or the Quran, when the very, very Quran sends them to the scriptures, and the very scripture says that Jesus is the Son of God. It will be very hard for them to say that Jesus is not the Son of God when Jesus himself speaks and confirms that he is the Son of God and God is his Father. When the Quran says that Allah doesn't have a father, and Allah doesn't sire, or Allah doesn't have a son. So I think they should find another way of trying to resolve this thing, because to me I feel like it's game over on this. Yeah, it's game over.